The 3.5 Hands of Land by Leo Tolstoy. The elder sister, married to a businessman, lived in the city. The younger sister, married to a farmer, lived in the village. The elder sister had come to visit her younger sister's rural home. As they sipped tea, the two sisters chatted away. The elder sister spoke about the advantages of city life, exaggerating her words, embellishing them as much as she could. The younger sister, however, praised the virtues of living in the countryside. Pakhom, the younger sister's husband, listened to them in silence. He then spoke, his voice low but filled with intensity. "You are right, sisters. Ever since I was a child, I have lived close to the earth, with its warm soil beneath my feet. But there's one thing that weighs heavily on me, my land. It's too little. If I had more land, I wouldn't care about anything, not even the devil himself." The devil, who had been lurking nearby, listened intently. A sinister grin spread across his face. He thought to himself, "This man will make for an excellent game." He decided to give Pakhom plenty of land, only to take it away later. Pakhom's land purchase. Nearby, there lived a woman who owned 240 acres of land. She was kind-hearted, with good relations with her neighbors. She had appointed a retired soldier as her land overseer. Unfortunately, this overseer was corrupt. He fined farmers for the smallest offenses. If a cow, horse, or calf strayed into the fields, it was fined heavily, and the farmers suffered terribly. One day, rumors began to spread that the woman was planning to sell all her land and that the overseer was going to buy it. The farmers grew anxious, and in desperation, they tried to offer her a higher price for the land. At first, the woman seemed hesitant, but soon, the greed that the devil had sowed among them began to take root, and they decided to go their separate ways and purchase the land individually. Pakhom, who already had 100 rubles, sold a donkey and half of his honey in order to raise the rest of the money. He even sent his son to work. Eventually, he managed to scrape together enough to buy 30 acres of land and a small garden. Pakhom became the proud owner of land for the first time. On his new land, he planted seeds, and the crops flourished. Within a year, he had repaid the woman for the entire sum, and now he owned the land outright. He rode his horse through the fields, overwhelmed with joy. The soil, the grass, the flowers, everything seemed to have its own unique beauty. His heart swelled with happiness. The farmer's guest. One day, a farmer came to Pakhom's home. He was from far away, across the Volga River. He told Pakhom of a new settlement where 100 acres of land could be had for the taking. All one had to do was register in the village council, and the land would be theirs. The man spoke of how a poor farmer with nothing but his 2 hands had bought 100 acres of land, and from that land he grew wheat and earned 5,000 rubles in a year. Pakhom, hearing this, was filled with excitement. He couldn't content himself with what he had anymore. The temptation of more land burned inside him. So as the summer heat arrived, he set off. He traveled by steamboat across the Volga and then walked 274 miles to reach his destination. When he arrived, he discovered that everything the farmer had said was true. Fertile land could be bought for incredibly cheap prices. To his amazement, the cost of an acre was only 1.50 rubles. He couldn't believe it. Pakhom sold his land at home and, in the early spring, packed up his wife and son to move to this new land. New land, new beginnings. In the new country, Pakhom became part of the community, and, as a member, he received 100 acres of land. The quality of life was 10 times better than before. He bought more land and cultivated it, reaping bountiful rewards. At one point, he even decided to purchase 1,000 acres of land for just 1,500 rubles. But then, one day, a merchant arrived at his house and told him about a distant land, farther than Pakhom had ever imagined, where land was even cheaper. There, 1,000 rubles could buy 10,000 acres. Pakhom, eager for more, decided to go there. He took a laborer along with him, and after a grueling journey of 332 miles on foot, they arrived in the land of the Baskiers. As promised, the land was fertile and the people were simple and kind. They lived in tents, and their main food was horse milk and mutton. The Baskiers welcomed Pakhom with open arms, and when they learned he wanted to buy land, they happily agreed to sell him as much as he wanted. The chief, the Starshina, told Pakhom that the price of the land was merely 100 rubles per day, and the more land he could walk around before sunset, the more land he could buy. Pakhom's dream. That night, Pakhom lay down to sleep on a soft feather mattress, but he couldn't sleep. His mind raced with excitement. He was about to acquire unimaginable amounts of land. By sunrise, he would own more land than he could ever have dreamed of. He finally drifted off to sleep, but soon awoke, hearing laughter. He got up and saw the Starshina, but as he drew closer, the Starshina morphed into the merchant and then into the farmer he met earlier. Finally, it transformed to a devil, horns sprouting from its head, hooves from its feet, and a horrifying grin. The devil laughed cruelly, and Pakhom looked around, realizing he was surrounded by his corpse, his own face staring back at him. The devil's laughter echoed in his ears, and Pakhom's heart sank as he realized the truth. He was chasing his own doom. The dream faded as the sun began to rise, and Pakhom quickly prepared to begin his journey. He was ready for the race that would grant him the land he desired, unaware that it would cost him more than he could ever have imagined. Pakhom's journey. The race began at sunrise. Pakhom walked, his heart pounding, his legs aching. His desire for land had consumed him completely. He continued walking, marking off his land with stakes, each one closer than the last. He walked for 6 miles, then another 3, and as the sun reached its zenith, he was no longer concerned about the land. All that mattered was reaching his goal. But exhaustion took over. His body screamed for rest, yet he continued, fueled only by the thought of the land. His shoes were shredded, his feet bloodied, but he kept pushing himself forward, desperate for more. By the time he had walked a total of 16 miles, the sun was setting. He could see the Starshina and the other villagers cheering him on, urging him to continue. But it was too late. His body could no longer hold up. His heart hammered in his chest as his strength failed him. He collapsed, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, he finally reached the mark he had set, the land he had dreamed of. Pakhom collapsed, his body broken and spent. The Starshina laughed, mocking him as he fell to the ground. Pakhom's dream had been fulfilled, but at a terrible cost. He had gained the land, but in the end, it was only enough to bury him. His grave was no larger than the area he had walked that fateful day. The devil had played his game well, and Pakhom had fallen into its trap. As the earth covered him, the Starshina's laughter echoed in the air, a reminder of how greed and desire can lead to one's undoing. In the end, Pakhom's dream of land was fulfilled, but he had gained only 3.5 hands of land, the size of his grave.